I don't think anyone out here understands what they're going through. I never thought about it. You know, I think I've heard some people refer to it as the forgotten service. You know, like you think about the most hardened, barbaric, evil criminals in the country. Well, these men and women who are on like 30 grand a year have got to deal with them every day. That's their job. And because I'm on the segregation unit, I mean, some days you'd come out because I have to walk past the other side. There's just shit everywhere, human feces everywhere, where they just smash out their little glass and they're firing shit at the officers every day. Not like now and then. I mean, every day. Smeared all over the windows, just flooded, just every day. And then I remember in one 7-day period, I was listening. Just remember, I'm only getting transported from A to B, and I'm listening to the radios. There was a female officer had a broken nose. Another officer lost his teeth in an attack, and another officer was attacked with boiling water. That's just my little walks in that 7-day period. Do you know when there was recently a prison officer got stabbed in the head in Woodhill Prison? That same day, there were 3 other incidents similar to that.
Not reported on.
No, but that stabbing would never be reported on. It's only reported on because of the Salman Abedi attack. So there's attacks like this going on every day. And the way it works, which the prison officer staff told me, they said the brothers, the beards, they run the wings, yeah? So the mullahs, the Islamic radicals run the wings. Everyone else runs around under them, yeah? So if the staff upset in any way the Muslim brothers, yeah, then they just put a hit on that member of staff. And then someone will do the member of staff. So the staff are constantly shitting themselves and have to be appeasing, which I understand. Of course they're going to appease them. They don't want us to get stabbed, do they? They've got nothing to protect them. Do you know on a wing, on a wing of 60 of those inmates, which you didn't remember, Woodhill, 50% of the people in there are in there for murder, yeah? So 60 inmates, 3, 4 staff tops. 3 or 4 staff. I had 2 members of staff. Like, I mean, I was a civil offender. To get me from A to B, to sit anywhere with me, I had 2 members of staff everywhere I went. So they're thinking, what the hell am I even doing here? But my worry all the time was, as I said, I've got through that little emotional thing now. My worry all the time was solitary confinement. My worry was because of the effect it had last time. I remember coming out of jail. I remember how much I struggled with it. So then I thought I'm back in that position, which was partly the fear for the 3 years hanging over me of putting the film out, which at points was driving me to a point of insanity before I went to jail. So when I was in jail, I sort of felt, I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad this is going to be done. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad I'm going to walk out of here. And I'm glad that I played the film. And I feel freer because I'd had this over my head for 3 years that I'd failed in myself. I'd failed as a journalist. I'd failed as... I had the weapon, I had the ammunition that could expose the corruption of the judiciary, and I'd sat on it for 3 bloody years. And then, but I sat on it because I knew the consequence. But then in that first week in January, I'm 8 weeks in, I'm having a fucking nightmare in there anyway. I'm having a nightmare because I knew the plans was just continued solitary. And every 42 days, so to hold you in solitary confinement, it's not the prison. They can't do it. It has to go to Shabina Mahmood. It has to go to the prison justice minister. She has to stamp it. So every 42 days, you have to fill out a form, which goes to your comments on your solitary confinement. So every 42 days, I say, this is insane. Yeah, I played a bloody film. Right? I'm a civil offender. Everyone else is getting out on HDC, home detention curfew, tags. Prisoners get 60% off. So the Labour government brought in a policy. We all know, we saw them open in the jails. They brought in a policy that criminals get 60% off their prison sentences. They wouldn't let me. Now, I know that for my sentence, it only makes a difference of 2 months. But why can't I have 60% off? And then even when I was in there, I have a good friend from school who's a Muslim. He's in there. He's doing the 24, yeah? So I said, well, okay, so I'm not allowed to talk to anyone. So let me talk to him. Like, I've got a mate who's in here. Like, he wanted, in fact, it was the imam. The imam come to my cell after about the 3rd day. I'm not going to mention the lad's name, but he come and said, blah, 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 sends his love. I said, is he in here? Because I was talking to him when he was in another jail. I said, is he in here? And remember, some people frame things differently. I have lots of friends who have turned to crime just because of where I'm brought up. So people say, oh, they're scumbags. I said, look, people have different friends. I mean, I'm friends from when I was children. I know the kid as a youngster. Yeah, he's gone down a different path. But I asked if I could have association with him, so I've got someone to talk to, but they wouldn't allow that. They wouldn't allow me to see anyone or talk to anyone, which I said in these forms that I filled out, I said, this is torture. You're mentally torturing me.
And how often was your mental health monitored?
Every 2 weeks, every 14 days, I had a board, which was just them ticking boxes for themselves. So it'd be like a little mini court. There'd be the governor, there'd be, look, the staff were wonderful. Every member of staff were wonderful. There wasn't one that wasn't. A few Muslim members of staff, wonderful. All of them, super nice to me. No one was purposely vindictive as staff. I believe the problem was coming from above. Nicola Marfleet was the governor at the time. Listen to this. So, because everything, they just lied about everything. Nicola Marfleet's the governor. She's in charge. They're holding me in solitary confinement, which I don't believe they need to. Do you know how they justified holding me in Wood Hill Prison? They said that I faced serious further charges. And they said it was for breaching a stalking prevention order. This is what they say. So on my records within the prison system, the reason that they're holding me in Wood Hill is because I faced these serious other charges that faces a 4-year prison sentence. Signed, this was on my prison record. I don't face those charges. I don't. So my solicitor contacts Met Police and says, please list us what charges Stephen faces. Just the terrorism charge. But the terrorism charge, I'm on unconditional bail, which means that doesn't justify holding me in any prison, but that I could still go to an open prison. So Nicola Marfleet, then my lawyers contact the prison governor and say he does not face those charges. That's bullshit. He doesn't face these charges. She then submits, because we go for a judicial review in the court. And I've been in 5 months at this point by the time we get to court. What they did a week before I get to court is they doubled my phone time allowance. They gave me a job. When I got to court, I'd still never done this job. So so I'm sitting in court and I'm muted. Yeah, I've been sitting in my cell for 5 fucking months on my own. Yeah, 21 hours a day, because I got out for 3 hours a day, but on my own again. So for the other 21 hours, I'm sat on this blue mat every day. Yeah? Whilst knowing that every other prisoner is out 8, 9, 10 hours a day, playing football, working, having a crack, having a laugh. So I'm sitting in there, and then when it gets to court, it's like, yeah, he works on a Monday, Wednesday and Friday in the afternoon. He does painting and decorating. I'm sitting there thinking, what are you talking about? He has these phone times, this amount of phone credit. And then a lot of it made sense. They said this, how many phone calls he's made. Do you know when I was on the phone to you? How many times they cut the phone off? Yeah?
Regular.
So my solicitor, I said to my solicitor, they cut the phone off all the time to my solicitors. Yeah. For me to make one phone call one time to Jenna, my kid's mum, it must have been 10 times. So then when they went through, this, how many phone calls he's made, and I think lots of things made sense.